So let's break down the Ravens off seasons. Full disclosure, I'm here in Pittsburgh, and they're doing it wrong, and I'm loving it. So half the Ravens fans hate what I just said already, but I'm going to break down why in the math that the Ravens have caused themselves some serious problems pretty much exclusively by doing the non-exclusive tag on Lamar Jackson. So first off, Baltimore is notorious for wanting to get compensation on every single thing, period, regardless of whether it was a good decision or not. Baltimore is one of the best team of getting compensation picks for free agents that have walked out the door. And because Lamar Jackson is on this non-exclusive tag, he is taking up 15% of their cap this year. And they have had some pretty really relevant starters walking out the door, starting, of course, with their guard that they have just lost. So that's a massive loss that's probably going to go over the radar to most of the national people just casually looking at the Ravens. But for the people who are the Ravens fans and follow this team legit, you're going to know how big that is. But I want to break down the conundrum they're in with Lamar Jackson and this odyssey. Because it's a non-exclusive signing, any other team can step up and say, hey, we want to sign you, Lamar Jackson. That's a fact. That team can do essentially what the Ravens did to acquire Roquan Smith. It's a trade. You give me 2 first-round picks and then a sign. You sign Lamar Jackson for whatever. So the problem with this is that the odyssey of Lamar Jackson being his own agent. Because he's his own agent, there's unique tampering rules to signing with players or talking to players that are under contract. And technically, because he's been offered this contract, he is under contract. So we're now into a gray legal loophole that teams would have to indulge in before even giving up the 2 first-round picks and then signing Lamar Jackson. This is the same rule that cost Miami their first-round pick this year and when they tried to talk to Tom Brady. So there is legitimate precedence for this concern, and it's not just something that some yinzer in Pittsburgh is bringing up to bring cause. The second problem with this is that you just told Lamar Jackson, we really don't want you back. The contract that they offered Lamar was not fully guaranteed, which he feels he is fully deserving of, because the team that is way worse than him in the division, which everyone agrees upon the Cleveland Browns are, gave a fully guaranteed contract to Watson on a guy who quit on his team for a year and a half. Well, there's more commonality with that with Lamar than we really want to look at. He was capable of playing the last 2 regular season games by reports out of the Baltimore beat writers and chose not to. That also includes the playoff game. So we have a guy here who feels he should be fully guaranteed, wasn't willing to accept the money he was offered, feels slated, now really because he's not willing to sign an agent, not really able to leave, and the team essentially said, we don't want you, we'd rather have the 2 first-round picks because we thought we wanted you at this price and you said you're too good for that, despite the fact that his numbers have been declining the whole time. So that's the problem that Baltimore is in financially entering this offseason. And I want to let you dive into your take on where this is going and how they need to correct this to make this better.
So, Joe, you said a lot of important things there about what we're dealing with just with the finances of a team. A lot of times you don't talk about that, and a lot of times you forget, when teams have a lot of cap room, when teams don't have that much room to deal with players. But the issue with Baltimore, and this has been an issue for a very, very, very long time, is they do a lot to help their defense, and they've always really put money on the defensive side of the ball. And this year, the defense, it had its moments towards the end of the season after they got Roquan Smith, but it was not very good at the beginning of the season. It let up a lot of yards, both rushing and in the pass game. And so now we're at a point now where Baltimore has put, like many teams do, their problems down the road. And now all of those problems have come out at one time. And when you look at Roto World, or when you look at these other websites and you see that Huntley, the backup quarterback, was just signed to a restricted tender as well, you essentially have a team here that has zero quarterbacks. They played a third string quarterback this year, but let's be honest, like, that's not going to win you a championship. And the way that Baltimore thinks is that, they're deserving of winning a championship every year. They should be in contention for a championship every single year. And with the way that Harbaugh coaches, I mean, granted, that should be a possibility every single year. Coach,
you got a chance.
Yeah, whether we as Steelers fans like that or not. But one of the things that's really, sucks about this whole situation is that, yes, Lamar's stats haven't been the same. If you project those stats, he's played in 12 games, I think, in the last, 12 games each the last 3 years. But if you project those stats to over a whole season, yeah, of course they're going to be better, or they should be better if you were to project them. But I honestly don't think that he's capable of playing efficiently for a large number of games anymore. Just the way his body is, and he's not old, but he's getting older. And what his skill set is he runs the ball, he passes the ball, pretty far. But the ways that he takes his opportunities, his team's not set up to do that. I was recently at a card shop, and some guy came in. Sorry, I have something in my eye here. And some guy came in, and he was talking, like, we started talking about just the Ravens in general, and he's like, I was like, I noticed that nobody really wants to play with him in terms of wide receivers. And so, Hollywood Brown left. Nobody who's like super fantastic wants to go to Baltimore to play. And, that could be one thing against Lamar here, is that, when you're looking to put talent around him, it's problematic because that talent may not want to be there with him, which seems odd because he's not the worst. Comes off an MVP. He was an MVP at one point in time. He's not the worst that you've ever seen. But the issue is nobody really wants to play with him in terms of, pass catchers. And so you're left with Robinson. You're left with who's the guy that they have right now that what's his name? We used to pick him in what?
Duvernay.
Yeah, Duvernay, and a couple of, like, these are nobody that you're going to write home about. And because of that,
absolutely not. Not a single one of them would be a number one or number two starter on any other team.
No, and because of that, the Ravens have now set themselves out with, if I don't play Lamar, I have no offense. If I don't play Lamar, I have Gus Edwards, and I have what's his name? Dobbins. But if I just lost my guard and I have to replace my guard, my running game is going to be a little bit weaker. I have nobody over the top. I have Mark Andrews, who is incredible, but I have nobody else. And so you think about this and you say, of course, you can be an NFL wide receiver and not be a big name like Devontae Adams, and you can be extremely efficient at what you do, and you can be really, really good and well-respected. But the elite of the elite, if I am Lamar Jackson and I have the skill set, an elite player should want to come to play with me. And herein lies the rub of Lamar Jackson, is that he's at a point in time in his career where he has the stats previously to back up deserving a contract. Now, like you said, financially, the Ravens offered him a deal that they thought was acceptable. It's not acceptable for him, so he wants to go to try to get that money. Now, is he better than Deshaun Watson? I think so. I think he's more talented than Deshaun Watson. He's at a better point in his career than Deshaun Watson. And he has proven that he can get a team to the playoffs multiple times. And so when you look at him, he deserves the money that he's asking for. But this is a similar situation where, teams are concerned, like you're saying, as to, okay, is he going to work well with my team? Is he going to want to do the same things that he did in Baltimore, or is he going to want to fit into the coaching system that I have? Does he fit into the coaching system that I have? We said many weeks ago, probably week 4, that in my mind, I think it would be an incredible experiment that if you paired up Lamar Jackson with another quarterback and you had him, as a dual threat quarterback running back thing that you would see in like college football. Of course, the NFL wouldn't do that because that would be insane and it would be frowned upon immensely. But I got to ask myself, why in the world is a guy, like you said, why is he not getting paid? And that's exactly the reason why. But nobody wants to take a chance on him. But you're seeing teams like the Carolina Panthers that are giving up so much more for a young guy that is unproven when they could have had Lamar Jackson. Or they could have tried to deal with Aaron Rodgers for the same price. And it makes literally no sense to me. It makes zero sense to the national media as to how he has not yet found a team and why the Baltimore Ravens, despite all their inadequacies, they built their team around their defense and Lamar Jackson, and you won't sign him. And you're not putting any other talent. It's not like they went out there and made a big free agent splash and now they can't afford it. They can afford to pay the man money for what his talent, and that's what they should do. They should do it because that team is nothing without Lamar Jackson. Let's be serious here.
I believe that the Hall of Fame coach is actually telling you he doesn't want Lamar Jackson, or else they would have signed him and figured this out. Because it's the simple fact of the nature. Talent doesn't want to be with him. I look at Mark Andrews the same way as I look at a power play goal scorer on a really bad team in the NHL. Someone has to do it. It's just the way that it is, and Mark Andrews is the guy to do it. And when we look at what the Ravens are, is they're a team that has vastly over-succeeded given its personnel, period. That's 100% a fact, and that's part of why Harbaugh is a Hall of Fame coach. And we look at the losses they have, basically everyone on their team that was older than 29, they didn't resign. And they're still sitting out there as free agents. Their major loss is their left guard. So when we look at what the Ravens need, it's a pretty big list because they're not able to go shopping because of Lamar. And I do push back. I don't believe that Lamar has a good arm at all, and that's why no receivers want to be there. I believe the proof is in the pudding that if he had a good arm, people would love to go play with him. But they don't want to because they don't want to be open and have the ball not thrown to them. I mean, it's just the way that it is. You don't see receivers trying to run away from good quarterbacks. You don't. This is actually much more similar, in my opinion, to the Russell Wilson situation last year. Once he left, we started hearing the truth coming out of the skill players. We're better off without Russ. We're better off in Seattle without Russ. Think anyone in Denver's glad that they have him? So I believe Lamar is the exact same situation. He won the MVP when there was no other running quarterbacks. He was the closest thing to a running back to win the MVP in the modern era. And he can't run the ball anymore because there's too many elite running quarterbacks out there. Defenses are ready for it. When he first hit the field, no defenses were ready for that. But looking at what the Ravens can do moving forward, it's a big shopping list. So we start with the fact that you need to make a decision. Are we running a passing offense or a running offense? And again, this hinges upon Lamar. Because if you're getting rid of Lamar, and we're going to go back to a traditional-based team, we're going to use one of those 2 first-round picks to get the quarterback.
Joe, now, I'm going to kick back at you. I am going to kick back at you, and I am one of the people at the beginning of the season that was like, yeah, in fantasy, Lamar Jackson is going to give you a couple good weeks, and then he's going to get hurt or he's not going to play well. And yes, his touchdowns. He played in 12 games this year. His touchdowns were not good. A lot of that to me, it points to not him being an extremely bad passer. When you look at his wide receivers put in front of him, and you look at quarterbacks that only have one good wide receiver and the rest are kind of role players in what they do, you're going to see a similar amount. You're going to see similar stats across the board in players like this. So is he that MVP caliber anymore? No, he's not. But he's
then why are they paying him like one? Like he wants to be paid like he is.
He's only been in the league 5 years. Okay.
He wants to be paid like he's Aaron Rodgers, and he's not that level of talent. So the Ravens are doing the right thing by not giving it to him.
Okay. I see where you're going with that, but what you have, at least what I understand,
Daniel Jones level in terms of passing the ball. He's almost better than Daniel Jones, but he's not a passer like him.
I mean, what are you looking at here? I mean, he can actually
accuracy in pushing the ball downfield.
Okay,
he throws a deep ball that if someone can run under it, who's wide open, it works. I mean, what their offense is people are afraid that Lamar's going to run wild, so they keep their safeties in, and Duvernay gets behind you and he hits a big bomb. But it's not an accurate pass by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, here's coming from Pro Football Reference, okay? When you look at his from 2022 and 2021, and you look at the amount of passes that were dropped this year was 8.4%, all right? And the amount of bad throws that he made out of 326 attempts that he's made, statistically based off of what they're going for here, it was 18%. Okay,
that's insane.
And he had 75% on target. Right now,
25% is off target. If 25% of your passing plays are a failure, you're not a good quarterback.
But you look at other passers in the league, and I'm going to pull it up while you talk, and we're going to compare those stats with why he thinks that he wants to get paid more. So you keep going, and I'm going to look those stats up for you.
You can get them, and bring me Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is not going to have 25% of inaccurate passes because you're still going to have an accurate pass that doesn't get brought in because of good defense. An inaccurate pass is a legit, the announcer's trying to figure out nice words to not throw him under the bus. But to keep this to the offseason, it's hard not to have the conversation offseason without addressing Lamar. He's defining this team. But to talk about the other reason why, if I were a team that was interested in Lamar, why I wouldn't address this until May or June, it's two reasons. The first is we need to get past the fact that I'm not risking a draft pick by talking to Lamar Jackson. That needs to get fixed in the league office. That, to the best of my knowledge, it has not been done yet. The second thing is, why should I give up a first-round pick this year and the draft upcoming in April of 2023 if I can just sign him in the following year and then I give up my 2024 and 2025 draft picks? It seems, why would I waste it? Not to mention, there's always the possibility the quarterback I really want falls to me in this year's draft. So it's an even added layer that Baltimore is trying to get too much for them. I believe Baltimore would be better off trading him outright right now to get the picks this year rather than holding out for the 2-1s. Sure, you might get different compensation. Maybe you get a 1 and 2 2s. Maybe you just get 4 2s. There's a lot of different ways you could go about it. But I honestly believe Baltimore knows wherever he ends up going, that second first pick for the 2 years down the road from now is going to be a premium pick. Remember, Baltimore had to change everything to become compliant for the way that Lamar Jackson wants to play football. Everything about them changed. And because of that, most teams are not willing to go all in to the running style and running protection of the pistol offense that they run. He doesn't work well in a true shotgun format and basically never goes under center. So you take teams that normally don't run the pistol and make that now our primary offense. It's a very hard sell before we even talk about giving up 2 first-round picks and giving up the money. So the reality, and I believe the best case scenario for Baltimore is they need to make a decision. Is Lamar our guy or is he not? Their actions strongly state that Lamar is not their guy. So therefore, if that's the case, you do what you did with virtually everyone else and you move on from the problem forever. Because the more that this lingers, the more insecure that team is and the amount of holes are populated. With the exception of their safeties, they can't cover to save their lives. They got Roquan Smith and their safeties. Everyone else on that team is exposed. Their pass rush without blitzing is below average. And when we look at everything in net, they got problems. Their strength, their offensive line is dissipating. It's dissipating before our eyes this free agency. And if Dobbins doesn't come back like he did in December, they don't really have a running back. I mean, they're talking about bringing back the Drake. No one likes the Drake. Everyone hates the Drake. So we look at this and say, no receiver weapons. Their second best weapon is Isaiah Likely, who is likely to be good. We love doing the pun, but at the end of the day, look at New England. If you don't have an accurate quarterback, you can't build an offense around 2 tight ends. And New England is the perfect chance of perfecting this. Accurate quarterback, 2 decent tight ends, good running game. New England can't score enough points. And New England plays Buffalo, but they don't have the fact that Cincinnati is destroying Baltimore continuously. They don't have the ability to get to Burrow or to cover their receivers. So if I'm Baltimore this year and I'm looking at how I'm addressing this offseason, I'm doing the same thing they always did as you broke it down before, Bob. I'm making the defense insane. We're letting Lamar shuffle out, and 2 years from now, we'll rebuild the whole thing. We'll rebuild the whole thing on offense, but until then, we're going to try to keep you under 14. We're going to treat it like we don't know how to score, kind of like what we're doing in Pittsburgh. And at the end of the day, as long as we keep you low, this is how the division will beat Cincinnati. Sack him, cover Chase. Unfortunately, Baltimore really can't do either right now. They'll stop Mixon because Roquan's a beast, but they ain't going to stop Chase.
No, I agree with you on that. I'm trying to say that, yes, he's not the best. He's not the worst. He's not the best. But the
and
way
then he should be paid like the middle of the road, not the top of the top.
But he is sitting right at the same, right within 4 of Josh Allen. And he's sitting at within 5 of Derek Carr, who is worse than him.
This is the difference here. This is the way pro football does their analysis of what's a catchable and incatchable ball. When you look at the facts that Buffalo will connect and go downfield frequently and efficiently, Lamar Jackson doesn't. When they were playing in the 4th down game against Miami, it was 4th down. We just need this first down to win it. They don't let him throw it. He runs it.
I understand that, but here's the other thing.
Coaches and the league telling you it. The coaches don't believe in his arm. The receivers don't want to come to you. You can make all the analytical arguments that he throws the ball well. The simple fact is you have to look at everyone around who's involved in the industry. They don't want him to have the ball when it matters. So therefore, why should we pay him like he is?
Joe, out of the
problem Baltimore's living.
Out of the short sample size that Lamar Jackson's season is 12 games. In that same amount of time, or if you take those 12 games and Josh Allen's whole season, Josh Allen had more rushing attempts than Lamar Jackson just in a whole season. So extrapolating those numbers out, you could assume that Lamar Jackson is going to run the ball more. And I agree with you. I don't want my quarterback to be running the ball more than he throws the ball. But in the current NFL and the way that salaries grow is if I became a free agent 3 years ago versus if I became a free agent now, I'm going to get paid more money if my stats are still backing it up. Now, Lamar Jackson's stats...
Yeah.
Is Lamar Jackson's stats backing up? No, not really. But also, if teams want to extrapolate those stats out over a full season, if they get a full season out of him, I think the primary problem isn't Lamar Jackson's ability. I think the primary problem is that does a team want to get a quarterback and pay a quarterback $60 million a year for 12 games? And I think
and doesn't want to come back in the playoffs when he could have.
And I think that there's so much toxic energy that has stemmed from Baltimore over the last 3-4 years. Quite honestly, ever since they've had Lamar Jackson, there's been a lot of toxicity coming out of that organization. Now, when you look at
the last 3 years, yeah.
When you look at, what that does is this is a two-way street, right? If I'm a player and I'm healthy and I'm on the back end of my contract and you have verbalized to me through your body language, through how your interactions with me are going, if I am trying to make money and put myself in the best position, because franchises are trying to put themselves in the best chances to make money, players are trying to do the same thing. It's a two-way street.
Win a victory.
And if I'm not going to be valued by you, then screw you, is basically what Lamar Jackson did, is said, hey, I could play for you and we could probably win a couple more games. We could make a playoff push, but you know what? You don't care about me. I'm not going out there and getting hurt again, and I know that you're not going to sign me, that I'm not going to get the money that I need for my family and for what I need to do, and so I'm not playing. And it's the same thing that I see college kids doing at the end of a season.
Yeah, there are certain cultures that are like that, but then there's also cultures that put it all on the line and go out and play for the win. And this is the difference between Kansas City and the Raiders. This is the difference between the Bills and the Jets. I mean, do you want to be only about me and my money and looking good in popularity, or do you want to be a winner?
Well,
for years, Baltimore had the latter. They were all about winning. We worry about our money after the fact. You come back, you win right now. If he would have pulled this under the Ray Lewis era, he would have been shot in a nightclub. That's the fact.
Well,
this would not have been acceptable.
We sitting here, I am never, ever going to see millions of dollars. I'm never, ever going to see millions of dollars. And with the college game getting NIL deals, and you look at all of these things going on now where everybody is their own entrepreneur, where everybody wants to make their own money, wants to think about themselves. Yes, you do lose the culture of the team. The Lions
had that. Yes.
The Lions brought back the culture of the team. And Kansas City with Andy Reid has a culture of a team. But there is also something to say that when I feel comfortable in my situation, I'm willing to give it all. When I feel comfortable in being in that you're going to trust me and that I have my money, no matter how much the guarantee is, that I'm going to play the best that I can play. Now, is that what he's thinking? I don't know. But I certainly...
What you're hitting is it's a failure of their front office. Their front office has made up the mind that they don't want Lamar, but they want to get paid getting rid of him.
Yeah, this is
the problem. If they made up their mind last offseason that they don't want Lamar, they don't want Lamar
to play a full season for an organization that doesn't want you.
Because they were unwilling to make that decision last offseason, it is dragging into this offseason, and it's going to destroy next offseason as well. Because they made up their mind in 2022's offseason, we don't want to pay Lamar fully guaranteed what Lamar wants, and because they couldn't figure out a deal, this problem of them not being on the same page, which is evident, is persisting, and it's destroying their franchise, and it is going to keep this offense from working, and because of the 15% due to him on the cap, they are not able to go out and purchase the secondary that they need. They're going to have to use draft picks on either rebuilding their offensive line, which they shouldn't have had to lose, Like, this is a perpetuating problem
And you know
that's
what?
going to go down the road.
And I admire Lamar in that situation is that you want to screw me. You want to screw me? Well, guess what? Now I'm going to screw
Offered
you.
him a huge contract. He just wanted it fully guaranteed, and they don't want to fully guarantee it.
That makes sense, though. But in today's NFL, NBA, NHL, or let's just say NBA and NFL together, the guaranteed money is a lot of times you either have to give me one of two things if I'm a player. Either a good, winnable playoff championship team or guaranteed money. Those are the only two ways.
There's only one quarterback that has fully guaranteed contract. There's only one player in the NFL that has a fully guaranteed contract.
I get it.
And all the NFL hates the fact that it exists. And they're never going to let it happen again. And Lamar doesn't want to see that reality.
Well, I mean, let's take a trip.
6-year deal. Put it this way: Mahomes signed a 10-year deal. Only 6 of the years were guaranteed, and he's Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. So that's the reality. 60% is kind of the top of that bird. And he wasn't willing to accept it. And that's the bottom line.
I'm not trying to argue the aspect of the is he worth the money or not? I'm simply trying to, pour some energy on the side to say, particularly now when you're a player with an injury history like Lamar Jackson, and you are playing still at a pretty decent level, not a great level, yes, you want a contract that's going to benefit you, and the team wants a contract that's going to benefit them. Of course, these are two things that are going to happen all the time. Now, is he worth a fully guaranteed 7-year contract, 6-year contract? I don't think so.
No.
But if I get a partially guaranteed contract from a team that consistently is not making moves to make my team any better offensively for me, I don't really want that. I don't really want to be on that team anymore, especially when you've already said you don't want me. So it doesn't matter how much guaranteed money that the Baltimore Ravens offer me. If they specifically have said for no uncertain terms that we don't want you, then I don't want you either. And I think that
a choice. This is where someone needs to step up and be an adult. And it clearly isn't going to be Lamar.
No, it's not going to be Lamar, but it has to be the people in leadership.
But they want paid. This literally is two
fault.
Sides that agree that they both want to get paid. The Ravens want paid in compensation from draft picks from other teams, and Lamar wants his money, which is fine. I mean, I'm not fighting here for negotiating. I'm saying at the end of the day, if Lamar gets signed to another team, it's not going to be until after the draft. And at that point, having all of this cap space clear up is too late for the Ravens to do anything. And they will not benefit from getting the extra first-round pick this year. And this is the failure of the front office of the Ravens not to make a deal last year or prior to this and basically being willing to accept a market rate that is less than 2 firsts so you can benefit this year's team. Because what they're essentially saying is we're going to try to build a nest for a future quarterback while they're losing all of their best branches. And that's what has happened in free agency so far. So they're going to be in a significant detriment moving forward. And as I said before, I'm going to conclude it on this. The Ravens front office is the failure here. They knew last year they didn't want to guarantee Lamar, and they didn't trade him then. And Lamar has been consistent in this. Pay me or I ain't giving everything. And he proved that last year in the playoff run, and he keeps getting injured. I understand where the Ravens are coming from and not wanting to bring him back. From the front office, it makes sense, but they did not do the right thing in how they have handled this situation from any business decision. Once you realize he's not your guy moving forward, he's not your guy today. End of discussion, and they are too greedy to accept that. And that is why the Ravens are, for the first time in 20-some years significantly pointed down in a way that they never have before. And it all does come back to Lamar Jackson.